What's going on, everybody? In this video, I'm going to share with you the literal inside scoop on what I do as a technical support specialist. I talk about it all the time, but what does a real day in the life look like? Not like a video of me waking up and fucking going to brush my teeth. I mean, what do I do in the job? If you want to know that, in this video, I'm going to show you how I solve tickets in tech support as a tier 2 B2B support agent, okay? We're going to be working in Zendesk. That's the primary tool that we use, at least in my position. If you want to know what tier 2 means, support is usually broken into 3 different tiers. You have the first tier, second tier, and third tier. And then maybe you'll have like side tiers and stuff like that. I'm on the second tier, which means I get slightly more advanced tickets, but not a lot of tickets, right? So the volume is low, but the technical aspect is a little bit higher. B2B means business to business. And that's really relevant because in my support, I don't support the employees of the company like maybe an IT support person would. I am supporting the clients of the company. And that introduces a really interesting dynamic because how well I support may or may not jeopardize a renewal conversation, which means whether or not they decide to continue using our product, right? And some of these contracts are millions of dollars of contracts. So, you know, if I ever get a ticket and it's what we call escalated or like on fire or it's like an emergency, all the leadership is there in that ticket. Everybody's pulling together to make sure it gets resolved right away because whether or not it's resolved properly, the client might not renew. So, you know, that's an interesting dynamic and we'll talk about that. So in this video, if I just scroll down here a little bit, we're going to be going over these things. First of all, let me get my face out the way. So first thing we're going to be doing is going over ticket basics. So if you're not really familiar with like what is a ticket, how is it made, how is it routed, all this, that, and the third, I'm going to be going through all that just so you're kind of up to speed. Then number 2, we're going to go and actually solve tickets, right? I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to bring you to Zendesk, show you what am I thinking, what is the next step I'm doing, and literally so you know what to expect, right? That's something I think is super important, especially if you're thinking about getting into tech, because what I do branches off into so many different possibilities. And if you're trying to really build a career, most people, they cut their teeth in this type of position. We're going to be going over an easy ticket, we're going to be going over a hard ticket, and then we're going to be dealing with a ticket where you're working with an upset client. Okay, the third thing is probably one of the most underrated parts of your job, and that is creating your own resources. I'm not in any leadership position, so I'm not creating resources for everybody else or maintaining documents for the team, but it's still important to have your own personal documents and resources. We're going to be talking a little bit about that. You can kind of see it in the tab I got here. And then, you know, I've been in this position, like 11 months now. I started in January, as you can see, is November 16th. I've been in this company for like 11 months now, maybe barely 11 months. And I got some tips. I got some tips that I think will really help you. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, let's go over ticket basics, right? How are tickets usually created? Then we're going to talk about how they're assigned and then SLAs. So think of it like this. You got this guy here. His name is Tyler Dern. He is a product manager at a company called Falcon Wings Incorporated. And you see he's scratching his head because he's looking at this chart and he doesn't know what the fuck it means. He doesn't understand what it is. There's data that's missing. Maybe it's not filtered properly. Like, he doesn't understand. And because he's a product manager, it's not that he's not good at his job. It's just that this particular analytics thing is outside the scope of what he does every day. So because he doesn't understand that, he creates this email. And he says, I got a report that's due by EOD. EOD means end of day. The data on this chart is wrong. Can you please investigate best TD? So this email that he's sending is the ticket. That's it, right? People can literally write whatever they want in this email, and if they email it to whatever area that receives the ticket, it automatically creates a ticket. So this is the ticket. So when I get the ticket, this is what I see. he's saying his chart is wrong. Can you please investigate? Now, there's already a couple of things that like come to mind when I see something like this, but we'll get into that later when I open up Zendesk over here, okay? So the ticket gets routed to a ticketing system, and the ticketing system could be any type of ticketing system, right? Today we're going to be talking about Zendesk, but it could be Jira, right? It could be Zoho. It could be any type of ticketing system, but their functions are pretty much like the same. So let's imagine that it's Zendesk. What happens to it? It gets routed to what's called a ticket queue where it sits, and then it needs to be sorted. It needs to be sorted to the correct team. So you got T1, then you got T2, just as an example, okay? Now I work at T2. The difference between T1 and T2 is that T1 works on like a little bit more simple issues, right? Or maybe they get a ticket and it's like, hey, can you create this for me? Hey, can you install this for me? Or just something very simple, something that can be written down on a piece of paper that's like step by step, like a protocol, right? And they have a scope of what they solve. Well, so maybe they're solving network issues and only login issues. So if that ticket was about networking or login issues, it would be routed to T1. But because it's data issues or advanced login issues, it gets routed to T2. And that's how it routes. Very simple. So if it routes to T2, now it's going to be assigned usually through merry-go-round, which is just, it goes, this person gets it, or this person gets it, or this person gets it, and it just goes around like that. Now let's say this guy right here, his queue was full, at least in my company. I don't know about other companies, but if he has 12 tickets, he doesn't get any more tickets, and it goes to the next person. And if everybody has 12 tickets, then it stays in the queue, and then usually a manager assigns it. But in this case, let's say it gets assigned to this guy. What happens next? So now, this is, let's say now you get the ticket, and you start emailing Tyler Dern. Okay, if you remember his email, he said he got a chart due at the end of the day. I mean, he has a report due at the end of the day. The data here is missing. And, you know, one of the first things you might email him is, hey, can you please send me the chart, right? Because you see in the email, if I scroll up, right, he didn't even include the chart, which is sometimes something that happens, you know, like maybe they're just so frustrated they forget to include it. So I'm like, hey, can you please include the link of the chart and what data exactly are you expecting to see on there? So part of the solving the ticket might be asking some follow-up questions like that. Okay, let's come back down here. Just zoom out like that. So yeah, so now that I'm in contact with Tyler Dern, let's say he emails me back, he sends me the chart, he sends me a screenshot, whatever information I need. There's this thing called an SLA. SLA means service level agreement. This is the level of service that the company has guaranteed that they'll provide to their clients. And you'll see that there's a time frame. You got 4-hour SLA, you got 4-day SLA. Every company is different, but in my company, usually we have like 3-day SLAs, which means if he replies back to me with the chart that I asked for, I have 3 days, or in this case, 4 days to reply back to him from a legal standpoint, right? So in this case, it is a little bit different because he mentioned that he has this report due by EOD or the end of the day. So what I would probably do, depending on how hard it would take to resolve his ticket, I would probably tell him what we realistically can do. If it's like an easy fix, if maybe he just got like a filter that's wrong, and instead of showing the entire last year, he forgot to actually, like, he actually set it to only show the last 30 days. I'd be like, oh, that's an easy fix. You just added this wrong filter here, you know? But if it's going to take longer, I'll tell him, hey, you know, realistically, this is probably going to need a deeper investigation. It's probably a bug or whatever. So you got to communicate that up front and set up the right expectations. But SLA is the required amount of time you have before you're able to respond. You usually do not want to break SLA. So now that we've gone over ticket basics, let me get rid of this. Now we're going to get into the good stuff. We're going to talk about literally how to solve a ticket using Zendesk. What am I thinking about? I'm probably going to give you a little background about what you're going to look at, because as soon as I go to that next tab, it's going to look a little confusing. It's going to be kind of weird. So I'm going to give you like a little overview, and then we're going to actually solve tickets as if you already had them. All right. See you over there. Okay, here we go. We are now in Zendesk. This is literally where I spend 95% of my time looking at this UI right here, right? Usually when I log in, the first thing I notice is, oh, I am offline. I need to come over here and click online, because while I'm online, if there's any tickets that get into the queue, then it gets assigned to me based off the merry-go-round. Anything else that I'm doing with my job is either usually going through tabs within the platform, looking through the platform. I may be using Slack. I'm probably checking my calendar to see if there's a meeting coming up, and that's pretty much it. But most of the time I'm spending here on Zendesk. So let's kind of break this down a little bit. First thing that you're going to notice is, let me just move this little thing out the way. First thing you're going to notice here on the left is you got different views, right? You see I got my unsolved tickets, I got unassigned tickets, all the unsolved tickets, and then there are some other views right here, pending and recently solved tickets. Now, depending on your company, the views are going to be very different, right? You might see the queue, the tier 2 queue, right? You might be able to see that there's like 3 tickets in there. You might be able to see another. It's going to depend entirely on your company. But for the scope of this video, you don't really need to understand this too much. Then you have this main panel right here. I got 3 open tickets. Open means that I need to take some action, right? There is something that I need to do for this ticket, and that's why it's open. If there was nothing I needed to do and I'm waiting maybe for a response or for a third party to do something, then this ticket would say pending. So your ticket status is really important. So one, you know what's going on in your queue, and also for any manager or any leadership that's auditing queues or just taking a look, they can see realistically what the workload is right now going on. So we got 3 tickets. We got the easy ticket, we got the hard ticket, and then we got the upset client ticket. Let's go ahead and open up one of these, and you'll notice it kind of opens up this tab here. I'm going to make this a little smaller. And now here's a little inside scoop on what you look at when you're looking at a ticket. You got 3 sections. You got the left section, you got the middle section, and then you got the right section. On the left section, you got some very important things. The first thing that you'll see is who the requester is. Right now, it just says customer. But normally, it would say the name of the person who is requesting the ticket. And in this case, if we go back to our example earlier, it would be this guy named Tyler Dern. So his name would be right up here. And then if you look on the right side, you'll get some information about this person. Usually it'd be their email, it'd be the organization they're from, and maybe how much money they spend, right? You can see if this person is escalated. Usually that means like they're like a sensitive client, like right now they're like a churn risk, or like something recently has happened. So like proceed with caution, handle them with care, and you'll get whatever relevant information to the problem that you're solving. Then you have, if you look back here on the left side, you'll see where it says assignee. So right now it's assigned to me, it's assigned to this group support, right? If this ticket was something that I don't handle, maybe I would assign this to another person on another team, and then I would write an internal note saying, hey, this is actually OAuth 2.0 question. I'm going to assign it to the identity access management team. It would be something like that, for example. Then you got tags, you got priority, and something I want to point out is this is all customizable. To your company can completely customize this. So for me, like everything that you're seeing here, I don't have that. I have something totally different. Like there's like some IDs and some information that I would put in here that'd be relevant to this specific case. So in this case, I just want you to keep that in mind, okay? Now we're almost done. We're gonna start solving the ticket soon, but I just wanna go over just a couple things that you need to know. Okay, so the first thing that you'll notice is that, hey, like there's this first message right here, right? It says, I was trying to send data to my web page, but the API isn't working. Can you look into this for me? Best. So this is the email that I was talking about before. Somebody wrote an email, maybe on their phone, maybe on their work laptop, and they sent the email to maybe the help desk support or maybe the tech support email that the company has set up, and it created this ticket. So now if I reply to that person, it'll be sending another email back to them. Okay? So going on to the next part, you have two things that you can do here, right? You have internal note and then you have public reply. I know it says call, but you can just ignore that. This is something that's customizable, but this is not something that I do, right? I don't usually call them like that. So if I do public reply, you can ignore this. It's not really relevant. And I write, hi, let's say it's Tyler, right? Hi, Tyler. Thanks for reaching out. I can share with you why this isn't working, right? Let's just say, let's imagine like that's what I'm going to be replying to him. That's not what I would say, but let's imagine I'm saying that. If I write this as a public reply, this is how you send the email. You look over here on the right side of the screen. Oh, my bad, I went backwards. You look over here on the right side of the screen. You see where it says submit as open. If I click submit as open, it is going to send this person the email. Now, if I submit it as open, right, that kind of doesn't make sense. What does it mean by submit it open? If I submit it as open, that means the ticket status is going to remain as open, meaning there's still something that I need to do. Now, what you would normally do if I'm asking a question, I'd be like, maybe I would say, hey, which endpoints are you communicating with, right? Let's say I'm asking them a question, right? I need a response from them. So in this case, if I need a response, I will go over here and then I will change the ticket status to pending, right? And if you look at that little block, that little box right there, it says staff is waiting for the requester to reply. That's what it would be, right? Now, I actually see an interesting status here, in progress. This is not something that I normally have in my job, right? Ours, it just says open, pending, or on hold. But again, this is highly customizable, and this is why a lot of enterprise companies, they use Zendesk, because you can customize pretty much everything. You can include logic, but that's not something you would really be worrying about. You would just need to know how to work a ticket, how to reply this, that, and the third. Okay? And I think I pretty much got everything done with showing you this ticket, right? Like the layout, there's a couple things over here. You got the customer context, the information, you got the interaction history. This is usually showing you other tickets that they have open. So this person got 3 tickets open. Then you have some knowledge, right? Maybe the company put some information here that you need to know. You got side conversations, you got related tickets, and then you got applications, right? They have different applications that you can install that are third-party applications that are very helpful. One of the applications that we have is this thing called, actually, I don't even know if I should tell you guys the name, but it is like an AI that allows us to source our documents and figure out information that's relevant to the question they're asking if we don't know off the top of our head. So yeah, that's it. Let's go ahead and actually solve this ticket now, right? So if you look at my little internal notes right here, by the way, I forgot to mention that if I write something here and then I submit it as open, let's go ahead and do that right now. It's going to post what I just wrote, but this is not visible to the client. The client cannot see any internal notes. So let's go ahead and look on this right now, because this right here that I have highlighted, this is what makes an easy ticket easy. Easy just means you know the answer or you know the solution. As soon as they ask you, you already understand what's going on and you can just boom, it's very easy, right? It just means that you have background knowledge, or you just need to do a little bit of research, right? Like maybe they're asking you, hey, how many integrations does your company support? You might not know that off the top of your head, but you know where to find the information. Like, you know what to do. That is what makes a ticket easy, okay? So in this case, This person says, I was trying to send data to my web page, but the API isn't working. Can you look into this for me? Let's imagine that before you got this ticket, you were in what we call a stand-up meeting, which is like a 15-minute meeting with your team. Everybody's on Zoom, and your manager is kind of going through some very important information that's relevant to your job. And one of the things that they shared is that the API is not working today. So because you already know that, you would just reply back to this person. Okay. Hi, let's imagine their name is Tyler. Hi, Tyler. Thanks for reaching out. Sorry to see that you're experiencing this. In case you didn't know, the API is down today for maintenance, right? Let's just imagine that it's maintenance. And then maybe I would come over here and find a relevant link that explains what's going on. And maybe I would say there is a workaround that's been implemented. Please use the link below for now. Happy to help. And then maybe I'll put a link here, right? Whatever link that is. Really cool thing about Zendesk is you have this little enhanced writing tool. So you see I made a grammar of, like, I didn't spell this right. I can just come over here and just write grammar, and Zendesk will fix the entire grammar of this email. Something I literally do all the time. It corrected the spelling, and it added the colon or semicolon or whatever the hell that joint is, and it fixed it for me. Right? Sometimes you can do rewrite in your own tone. I usually don't use that because it kind of makes it weird and too professional or whatever. Sometimes I use simplify, right? Like if I just highlight this and then come over here and click simplify, it'll just simplify that one thing, right? If I was working with a new client, maybe I wouldn't be so simple like this. I would kind of pad my email a little bit. But let's say I know Tyler, I've been on the phone with him before. I worked with him many times through supporting him. I can just be like, hey, the API is down today for maintenance. Please use the link as a temporary solution. I can just be a little bit more, speak to them like a person, basically. Then I'm going to submit this as solved. I can either do solved, which means I close the ticket, or I can do pending if maybe this client, you're not supposed to solve it until they say that it's been resolved. So in this case, I'm just going to solve it because, there's nothing else really to be done. The API is down for maintenance. We're providing a temporary solution. That could be what actually, I changed my mind. I'm going to do pending just to give him an opportunity to reply. He might reply, and then I'll come over here. I'll change the type to task. And then I'm going to put a due date for Monday, and I'm going to submit it as pending. So now it has a due date for Monday, which all that means is that now this ticket is going to open up again on Monday. And if he hasn't replied by then I'll come over here and I'll solve it out. Now that I've done that, watch what happens when I go back to my inbox. Now you see I have one that's pending, I have one that's hard, and one that's upset, and these two are open, and this one is pending. All right, so let's go ahead and work on the hard ticket, and I'll see you right in there. All right, now this is how I solve a hard ticket. Hard is usually you do not know the answer, you do not know the resolution. Hard is a ticket, you get it, and you're like, man, this looks like a foreign language. I don't understand what's going on, or I don't know the answer. And that's what makes it hard, because most of the time in my job, I am dealing with issues that I have never seen before. I don't know the answer immediately, but the reason why I was hired, because I know how to find the correct answer and implement it accurately, right? So we're gonna kind of go through that right now. Let's go ahead and open up this ticket. And before I do, I wanna point out another little feature of Zendesk is that you can kind of open the ticket like by just hovering over it and kind of just like reading just really quickly, seeing what's going on, right? Another thing that you won't be able to see, at least in this little demo, is that on the left side of the open status, there's this space. If there's somebody who is looking at my ticket, you can usually see it by there being an eye here, right? So that's like an indicator on how urgent a ticket is. If I were to see that there was an eye here and then I hover over it, right next to where it says ticket number 3, it would tell me who was looking at my ticket. So it could be that the management leadership, could be the vice president of support, they're all looking at this one ticket, and that kind of gives me an indicator that whatever is going on here, I need to pay attention to because it is getting a lot of attention, right? Sometimes that attention could just be because, I don't know, they're just looking at it for whatever other reason, but usually it means that there's something going on here. So let's go ahead and open it, and then let's read this together. So wait, hold on. Let me say something first. This is, if I don't tell you this, I'm gonna really mess up giving you great advice. A big part of your job is learning how to concentrate. There are 1,000 different things that can pull your attention, pull your energy, like having your phone, for example, scrolling. If you're gonna solve hard problems, you have to be able to concentrate, to focus in and really like just digest what's going on. Sometimes for me, I need to clean out everything that's around me. I need to put in some Brazilian house music. I need to go make myself some green tea, and I have to really sit and think because it takes brain power to work through some of these issues. And I'm going to explain why, for example, right? All right, so let's read this, right? We're running into a strange issue with SSO, that's single sign-on. When users try to log in through the Okta dashboard to access Microsoft 365, they get stuck in a continuous redirect loop between Okta and Microsoft. The login page just keeps refreshing without granting access. So the first thing I'm noticing is that whoever wrote this email, they're really taking their time to be concise and describe the issue, which is what I really appreciate. Sometimes people, they're just texting on their phone. Maybe they're in a cab and they're like, hey, we've been dealing with issues with Okta. Can you like take a look at it for us? And don't give any context or anything that I can really work off of. But I can see this person might be somebody that's easy to work with. And now they're even telling me what they did, right? They said, I've cleared the cache and cookies. This is probably something I would have recommended that they tried, but they said that they've done it already. They've tried multiple browsers. They use Chrome, Edge, Firefox, and they even tested on a new machine. So they've really run through the gambit of trying to resolve this issue on their own, but they're getting the same result. The issue started this morning and is widespread. They're saying it's multiple users. So it doesn't seem local. Could this be a recent configuration change or certificate expiration? Please investigate. We have a department meeting in 2 hours and need access ASAP. So we have a very complex issue here. The first thing that I want to do is make sure I understand exactly what the problem is. The worst thing that can happen is you get a support person. Let me move my face out of the way. Let's make it small. The worst thing that can happen is you have a support person and they're not taking their time slowing down and properly reading this, and they don't understand the issue, and then they start working on something that doesn't have anything to do with the real problem. What is the real problem here? Right? I'm gonna write this note for myself, or I might be able to say core issue. Right? Oops. Core issue, and I want to literally write this out so I understand the specific scope of what I need to fix. Right? And if I just reread their email, we're running into a strange issue with SSO. When users try to log in through the Okta dashboard to access Microsoft 365, they get stuck in a continuous redirect loop between Okta and Microsoft. Okay, so this is the core issue right here. They're stuck in a redirect loop, right? And the resolution is the ability to log in again, right? the ticket is solved when I'm able to give them the ability to log in again. I know this might sound obvious, but I promise you, if you're working with complex, multiple step issues, you need to literally clarify what the issue is and what does it take to resolve it. And in this case, we have to help them get the ability to log in again. Okay, so now the next thing I want to do is I want to replicate this issue. So this person, her name is Melissa. If we look over here on the right side, right now this is obviously a trial account, so it doesn't show her email, but I would have her email here. I have her organization here. I might have a link that brings me to their Okta dashboard. I want to try and replicate this issue. I want to see if I can experience what they're experiencing, right? So I'll probably take their email, go ahead, log into their Okta dashboard, and then try logging into Microsoft 365. And let's imagine that I just did that. Now I see the exact same thing is happening for me. And normally we would probably tell them to do all these things, right? Clear their cache, cookies, try multiple browsers, try a different machine, but they've already done that. So that kind of rules out what a possible solution is. So I need to figure out, all right, what do we do now, right? Like, where am I going to go? And this is where you start to research. This is where you're going to start to research. Let's put a check here because we just replicated the issue. Okay, now we're going to do research. First thing I'm thinking of is, okay, is there an Okta outage? Maybe there's something going on with Okta. Maybe they're having an outage. So I'm going to go check the Okta platform status. I'm going to go check that. Second thing I'm probably going to do is go to Slack and one of our SME Okta channels, ask if others are experiencing this issue. If you want to know what SME means, it means subject matter expert. So these are all the people who are, these are all the people who are very familiar with Okta, and you'll ask a question there and somebody, pardon me. So you ask a question there, and somebody who's very familiar with Okta, they'll be able to answer. And this is probably the best source of best place I can go find information about any Okta platform status, right? Now let's imagine that, you know, nobody else is experiencing this issue. So that tells me this is isolated only to Melissa's team, right? And this is something very important to know. Like, this whole process that we're going through right here, this is critical thinking. This is approaching the problem logically, breaking it down, ruling out options, right? So nobody else is experiencing this issue. Okay. So let's go ahead and check some other things, right? Right? Is there a problem with the Okta SAML app configuration? Let's say I don't really know how to configure SAML, or I don't even know what that is. I might need to source this information from one of our engineers, right? But in a lot of cases, you might not be able to reach out directly to the engineer. Like, that might not be something that's allowed. And the reason why companies might not allow you to reach out directly to engineers like that is because it's like IT management. Like, they're considered a very important resource. Their time is very valuable. So their time should be focused mainly on projects that are critical to the entire organization. So if you're going to reach out to an engineer, you probably need to get manager approval. It needs to be done through Jira. So if I think that this might be the case, it's a problem with the SAML app configuration, I might need to do my own investigation, and then I need to record what I've seen, develop some evidence, and then say, hey, I believe it's this issue. Could you take a look, right? Now, I'm not too familiar with SAML app configuration right now for me to give a great example, but that's just something that I would do in this case if I realize that it's way more technical than I think. All right, recent Microsoft certificate update invalidating SAML response, loop caused by missing reply URL mismatch. So this is outside the scope of what I know how to do. So these are probably all questions that I would raise to somebody who does have this type of information. So One thing that we haven't done looking at our research is that we haven't done this yet. We haven't really checked the platform status, right? So if we were to actually go to Okta platform status, we'll see right here, Okta status, and everything looks operational as of today, right? You got the core platform, access gateway, API services, MFA, single sign-on. This is what we were looking for right here. So it says operational. Now imagine if it said service degradation. If this said service degradation, this would explain what they're experiencing. And for this case, let's imagine that it did say that. If it did, then I've finally figured out what is going on, and now I can communicate that with the client. I can just say, all right, let's go ahead and say, okay. Say, hi, Melissa. Thanks for reaching out, right? I want to kind of speak to the emotions that she's feeling and let her know I understand how important, like, what's going on. I understand how important this issue is. I've just completed my research into this issue and found that Okta is currently having a platform outage. Can you please refer to the website below for more details? And then I'm going to come over here, I'm going to copy this link, come back, paste that, and I'll say we are currently working on a workaround. By the way, I would only say something like this if I know that's actually what's happening. Maybe, you know, when I was reaching out to the SME channel for Okta, somebody said, hey, you know, we're working on a workaround. I would mention that. We're currently working on a workaround. We'll keep you informed. Then I'm gonna write best. And then I'm gonna go here and submit this as maybe pending, for example, or not even pending, because I'm not really waiting for a response. I'll just probably submit it as in progress, and then I'll go from there. So if this wasn't the issue, let's say it wasn't because there was a platform outage and maybe there was something going on with this reply URL mismatch, which is a very in-depth technical issue, then I would just need to get management approval to escalate this ticket. And here's how you escalate this ticket. Usually there's, all right, so let's say this was a more technical issue, right? I'm going to take all this, I'm going to cut that, I'm going to put this here just in case I need to refer to that later, and then I'll come back to internal note. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new internal note. This is something that I made using ChatGPT, but normally there would be like a blank template that I would paste right there using a macro. A macro is just a template. That's literally all it means. It's just a template. So it'd be a template, and then I would fill out that template with the evidence. I'd be like, hey, this person, this company, I went through the steps. These are the things that I've done to try and troubleshoot it. Here's a screenshot. Here's a link. This is their email. This is the urgency level. And I would fill out all that information and I would paste it right here, just like this. So you got the steps taken so far, preliminary diagnosis, right? I'm talking about it's likely a reply URL mismatch between Okta and Microsoft SAML config, right? This is what I'm requesting them to do, right? This is also very important, right? Usually I just write ask. This is what hey, can you investigate this issue and see if it's actually the reply URL and implement a fix. I want to be super clear on that. And then maybe I'm going to attach their report. I'll come over here, down here, and then I would like attach the whatever is required. And then we're going to change the assignee. Are you going to come to groups? Maybe there would be like engineering here, and then I would submit it as open once I've assigned it to them. and now it'll be sent over to them. They will be assigned to a new person. But in case they use Jira, then there would be an app here with Jira that would create a Jira ticket, right? And normally maybe a manager would do that for you, or you can do it once you get management approval. So that's how you solve a hard ticket. We're going to be going into the last ticket, how to resolve a ticket with an upset client, and I'll see you right in there. Peace. All right, so this is how you solve a ticket where you have an upset client. And I think it'll be very important if I just paste these things right here so you can have an outline on what you want to kind of think about when you're dealing with somebody who's upset, right? You want to understand the common reasons why somebody's upset. You understand the root cause of why they're upset in this particular case, right? After that, you really want to make sure you have the proper action plan and then implement the fix properly, right? And then I would also add empathetically, right? So understanding some of the common reasons why people are upset, right? Like I know you might be reading this, but just ignore this for now. Just pay attention to what I'm talking about. One of the most important things that most important reasons why somebody will be upset is either like poor communication. You're not providing any updates about what's going on with their ticket. You're not you're asking questions that you should already know, right? You're not even trying to research. Like let's say, you know, you need to log into their account and you ask them, hey, what is your email to log in, right? Well, instead, you should have just gone over here to the right side and just like saw their email. Questions like that will probably get them upset. That's like the first thing, poor communication. The second thing is long resolution times. And the reason why this is an issue is not because it takes long, but because their expectations weren't managed properly. So if they're asking for something to be done as soon as possible, you might feel inclined to tell them that, yes, we can get this done as soon as possible. Do not do something like that. Instead, be realistic on what can happen, right? If it's something that's going to take 72 business hours, tell them, hey, this might be something that takes like 5 days fixed, right? You want to be a little bit longer than what it might actually take, because if it takes less time than what you told them, right, it's a better experience for them. You don't want somebody to have an expectation that is going to be fixed overnight and then something happens and then now they're upset because you didn't manage their expectations. The third thing is usually leadership pressure. Let me copy this and put this in here just so you can see this visually. Leadership pressure. So the third thing right here is leadership pressure. So they usually have some deadline going on where they need to get this done at this point in time, and they are pressuring you to get a fix right away. In this case, I would really recommend bringing in your own leadership, bringing in management, letting them be aware of the situation so they can properly advise you on what to do. This is something I haven't talked about that much, but your team is one of your biggest resources, your biggest assets. And learning how to bring them in whenever is necessary is huge. All right, so these are the common reasons why clients might be upset. The next thing that you want to do is you want to understand the root cause of why they're upset. So for this, let's go ahead and look at this ticket. All right, so if we read it, my ticket, and then they put the ticket number. My ticket about missing invoices in the billing portal has been open since 2 weeks ago, and no one has given me an actual update or resolution. I was told someone would look into it. That was over a week ago. I just sent 2 follow-ups with no response. This delay is causing issues with our internal reporting, and leadership is asking me, why are we even paying for support if nothing gets fixed? See, now we can see this client is very upset, and it is also justifiable. And now they're saying, I need this escalated. So, respectfully, Jared. Okay, so we understand the root cause here, right? They're missing invoices from the billing portal. God forbid if you were the person who had this ticket they're talking about and you're the one who dropped the ball, that's on you, right? It could be because you were busy. It could be because the ticket slipped through the cracks somehow. but hopefully that's not the case, and maybe this ticket is referring to somebody else. So in this case, I would probably flag this ticket to management. I'd let them know what's going on. I would even let them know that they're threatening to, like, I guess, churn or whatever. They might not actually be doing that. They're probably just doing that because they want action done right away. I mean, he literally said he wants to get this resolved today. So now that I understand the root cause, I don't want to just jump in here and just send a reply saying, hey, I apologize for the delay. We're going to work on this. I don't want to give any false promises. I want to figure out what the hell happened. I'm probably going to open this ticket up, click in it. It's going to open a new tab. I'm going to see what happened. I'm going to do my own investigation. I'm going to figure out why these invoices missing. I'm probably going to reach out to the other person who had this ticket. I'm going to do my own research. And if possible, I'm going to see if I can fix this issue right away. Now, let's say I do research into this and I figure out that these invoices are missing because they had done a migration from on-premises to the cloud. And in that process, somehow some of the ways that invoices are created, it wasn't saved in the spot that they normally find it. Now, this is like a really easy thing to like resolve, but if you're not aware of what happened, like it's just like having a rock in your shoe. Like it's just a painful experience, and you don't understand like what's going on. So if that's the issue, now what I would do, oops, I can just do that, is I would reach out to them immediately, right? And let's say I'm able to even find the invoices. I can say, hey, Jared, thank you. I might even say thank you for reaching out. I'll probably say like, I totally understand the frustration here. I have great news. And then I like to like write my emails in ways that are very simple, concise, and clear, right? So I like to use bullet points. I'll be like, number one, I figured out why these invoices were missing, right? And then I come over here and be like, when your organization completed your on-prem to cloud migration, the way reports, or no, the way invoices were saved weren't configured. Move my face out of the way. Weren't configured for the new change. So they were being saved in a place that was unknown. Okay? Then I'm going to do number two. I have attached the missing invoices and reconfigured the change to save them in the place you normally access them. I apologize for the inconvenience. Please let me know if there is anything else I can assist with best. And then I'm going to come over here, use the enhanced writing, write grammar, and then it's going to fix my spelling mistakes, fix the grammatical errors. And I'm speaking to the emotion that they're feeling, but I'm not spending too much time there, because at this point, the only thing that's really going to make them feel better is if I fix the issue, right? Now, I would imagine they probably want to maybe write up this person, and maybe that's something that they'll do, but I won't speak to that, right? I just want to resolve the issue. I want to, apologize for the inconvenience, and I even went a little step further, like as well as attaching the missing invoices. I reconfigured the change so they can access them normally without any problem, right? And I'll just leave it at that. So I want to go like a little above what they're expecting to resolve this issue, but at the root of it, you want to resolve it right away. So we're going to go ahead and submit it as pending. The only reason why I don't want to close it is because I imagine they might have some type of response, something that they want to say. So I'm going to wait for that. And then I'm also going to flag this ticket to management and let them know, hey, this person, is sensitive right now. And it seems like they're they're questioning whether they're even paying our company for. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much how you solve 3 tickets. This was a lot more lengthy than I imagined, but I am going to save the next part of this video, creating your own resources, and the tips for part 2 of this video. So if you have any questions about anything I said specifically, just leave that down below. If you enjoyed this video, you want to see a little bit more in-depth technical stuff like that, leave a like, and I'll catch you in the next part 2, where we're going over creating your own resources and just some tips and some strategies that I learned about my job along the way. Catch you in the next video. Peace.